From misbehavior on the course to players being extremely disrespectful, these are the 20 biggest douchebag moments in golf history. In golf, your worst moments don't stay private for long. A wayward tee shot, thick fescue grass swallowing your ball, and one volunteer who's just trying to help. During the final round of the 2025 Open Championship at Royal Portrush, Bryson DeChambeau hit his drive on the 11th hole into deep rough. After opening with a disastrous 78, he'd fought back to stay in contention, and now every shot mattered. A volunteer ball spotter stood in position, pointing out exactly where the ball had landed in the thick grass. DeChambeau walked up, and that's when it happened. Instead of a simple thanks, he said, "You can move out of the way, thank you." Not the worst thing ever said on a golf course, sure. But then, as the volunteer walked away, DeChambeau turned to the gallery with a smile and added, "He was standing right in front of it," like the guy was some obstacle rather than someone giving up their weekend to help. A spectator filmed it. The clip hit TikTok and Twitter, and let me tell you, people were not happy about his behavior, especially jarring for someone marketing himself as the people's champ. DeChambeau finished tied for 10th 8 shots back, but the damage to his everyman image, that hit closer to home. Next up, golf prides itself on honor, integrity, handshake deals. So when you win over $1 million with someone carrying your bag, you do right by them, right? Well, in November 2018, Matt Kuchar captured the Mayakoba Golf Classic and the $1.296 million winner's check that came with it. His regular caddy couldn't make the trip, so he hired David El Tucan Ortiz, a local club caddy who normally earned a couple $100 a day at the resort. They had a fairy tale week together. It was Kuchar's first win in 4 years. When they handed the envelope to the caddy, it only had $5,000. That wasn't the math. This tournament win worth over $1 million. The standard protocol dictates 10% of winning, so that would have been roughly $130,000. Ortiz expected something closer to $50,000. Instead, he got less than half of 1%. The story leaked, and Kuchar's defense somehow made it worse. He told reporters that for someone making $200 a day, a $5,000 week was a really big week. Eventually, Kuchar apologized, admitting his comments were out of touch and insensitive, and paid Ortiz the full $50,000. But for a guy ranked 10th on the all-time money list, with over $46 million in career earnings, fighting over pocket change with a man who helped him win wasn't a good look. Coming next, the crowd has had its fair share of ugly moments too, especially Americans who love talking trash from a safe distance. And when there's beer involved, security nearby, and a guy who could fold you in half standing 30 yards away with a golf club in his hands. This one happened in the Ryder Cup at Bethpage Black on Long Island. Shane Lowry and Rory McIlroy were battling Justin Thomas and Cameron Young in the Saturday afternoon 4-ball session. And the New York crowd had gone from rowdy to ruthless. Vulgar insults, noise during backswings, personal attacks. Everything golf isn't supposed to be. Lowry, a proud Irishman with zero tolerance for nonsense, was getting hammered with taunts about his weight all afternoon. One particularly brave keyboard warrior hiding in the gallery wouldn't shut up. But did it stop Lowry? Heck no. He did what champions do, he drained it. Then he turned to one section of the crowd, pointed directly at them, and let them know exactly what he thought. Multiple fans got ejected that day. Extra security and state police had to be brought in. Europe won anyway, 15-13. Lucky for those loudmouths, Shane kept his composure where it mattered most. On the greens, not in the grandstands. Well, at least those Bethpage fans showed emotion. Some guys on tour wouldn't crack a smile if you handed them $1 million check. Like this dude. Between 1997 and 2001, David Duval won 13 PGA Tour events, reached #1 in the world, and dethroned Tiger Woods. He was brilliant, dominant, and about as warm as a January morning in Alaska. His shyness and social anxiety read like arrogance, suspicious of anyone wanting his opinion, brutally tactless in interviews, prickly and aloof. Even at his peak, galleries viewed him as distant, never quite a fan favorite. The wraparound Oakleys didn't help. Neither did the vibe that winning was just another regular day for him. Back at the 1999 Bob Hope Classic, Duval shot 59 in the final round, one of the greatest rounds in golf history. He came from 7 shots back, eagled the last hole to win by 1, and he showed a rare emotion after that final putt, shaking his fist. Then immediately went back to looking like a guy checking items off a grocery list. Thing is, Duval was easier to admire than to love. He didn't want your heart. He was here to win, not make friends. After his 2001 Open Championship win, injuries destroyed his game. And when he disappeared, nobody seemed to miss him or his attitude. That's the real tell. Next up, sure thing. That serious, composed attitude can be useful sometimes. In fact, I think it could have helped Max Homa when frustration hit. Instead, he let it spill out at exactly the wrong moment. Recently, in April 2025, Max Homa arrived at Augusta already in crisis mode. He'd missed 4 straight cuts, dropped to 78th in the world. And days earlier, his longtime caddy Joe Greiner, his childhood friend, had left him. It wasn't mutual. Homa admitted that it was not his choice. So the first round came. Homa punched out from the trees, and the ball bounced once before drilling a 4 caddy standing in the fairway. Total accident, the kind of thing that happens in golf. But instead of checking if the guy was okay, Homa's immediate reaction was to yell, "Come on, dude!" As if it was the caddy's fault for existing. Like you drill someone with a golf ball at the Masters and your first instinct is to blame them? The 4 caddy just stared back down the fairway, wondering what he'd done to deserve that. Homa went on to par the hole and shoot 74, but keep note, when your game's falling apart, the last thing you need is to look like you can't handle adversity with a shred of class, especially at Augusta. But not all these guys are like that. Sometimes frustration builds all week. You bite your tongue through Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Then Sunday comes and the dam breaks. It was the US Open at Chambers Bay. Billy Horschel stepped to the microphone after shooting a final round 67 with a smile and said, "I've been waiting for this moment all week." Then he unloaded. During the round, he'd feigned tomahawking his putter into the green after a missed par putt. Now, with microphones recording every word, he torched the USGA. "I've lost respect for the USGA this week," Horschel declared. He ripped the greens, the architect, the course design, said putts bounced worse than he'd ever seen, claimed the fans got robbed because they couldn't get close to the action. When he heard Mike Davis had input on the course design, it blew his mind even more. The whole thing was a public execution of a major championship venue. He insisted he'd played his butt off to shoot 3 under when it should have been 6 or 7. 2 days later, Mike Davis called and apologized, admitted the greens weren't championship caliber. Horschel later said he wasn't sorry for what he said, only that he should have said it in private. Translation, he meant every word, just wished fewer people had heard it. Next up, let's go from verbal grenades to actual props. Because sometimes the joke lands and other times it blows up in your face. Tiger Woods was teeing off against Justin Thomas at the 2023 Genesis Invitational on the 9th hole of the first round, in his late 40s yet still crushing it, when he crushed his drive 323 yards to JT's 313. As they walked off the tee, he slipped something into Thomas's hand. What thing, do you ask? It was a tampon. Thomas took it, laughed, dropped it on the ground. Between 2 friends who've known each other for years? Probably hilarious. The message was like, "You're hitting it short, so here's something for the ladies." Oh, that was bad. Really bad. Sky Sports tore into it, calling it crass and disappointing. It was seen as driving it short means playing like a woman, which implies women are inferior. Because using a menstruation product to mock someone reinforces every tired gender stereotype in the book. Tiger apologized, said it was supposed to be all fun and games, just friends having fun. And sure, buddies trash talk. But when you're one of the most famous golfers on the planet, handing someone a tampon to say you hit it like a girl stops being locker room humor. So, funny in the moment. Maybe, worth the backlash? Not even close. Now, for this one, let me start just saying this. You can only bite your tongue so many times before something snaps. And when it does, sometimes you don't yell back. You just take what's theirs. Rory McIlroy stepped up to the 18th tee during a practice round of the TPC Sawgrass, with a couple college golfers watching from behind the ropes. One of them was Luke Potter, a University of Texas junior who'd just won a tournament across the street the day before. McIlroy pulled his drive into the water. Potter allegedly shouted something about the 2011 Masters, a brutal reference to Rory's final round meltdown at Augusta, one of the most painful moments of his career. McIlroy didn't let it slide. He turned, walked straight over to Potter and his teammate, extended his hand and said, "Can I see your phone?" Then just took it and walked away. Yeah, just that. No discussion, no explanation. Just snatched the phone and kept moving like he was confiscating contraband from a high schooler. Safe to say that the phone eventually got returned, and Potter got escorted off the property. He later apologized profusely, wrote letters to Rory and the tour commissioner. And McIlroy? Well, he moved on like nothing happened. Now, here's the thing about timing. In golf, it's everything. The rhythm of a swing, the pause at the top, the split second before impact. Break that timing and you break the shot. Back in the final round of the 2018 Open Championship, Tiger Woods stepped onto the 18th tee, pulled driver, and prepared to launch one down the fairway. He needed birdie to reach 6 under and join Rory McIlroy and Justin Rose in the clubhouse. His playing partner, Francesco Molinari, was cruising toward the claret jug, but Tiger still had something to play for. At the absolute top of his backswing, that frozen moment before everything explodes, someone in the tent yelled, loud, deliberate. Tiger flinched mid-swing. You could hear him immediately saying, "No, what are you doing?" Somehow, despite the disruption, the ball still found the right side of the fairway in decent shape. It was muscle memory saving a moment that could have been a disaster. The spectator, of course, got ejected, all for chasing 15 seconds of viral fame, as if the silence during a swing was optional. But sometimes the ugliest moments don't happen on the course, they happen right after, when someone thinks nobody is paying attention anymore. It was 1997. Tiger Woods just demolished the field at Augusta National, winning the Masters by 12 strokes at 21 years old, the first black man to win a major championship. History made. Fuzzy Zoeller, meanwhile, had shot 78 in the final round to finish tied for 34th, a full 35 shots back. After his round, cameras caught Zoeller talking about Tiger. He called him that little boy, then said when Tiger comes back as champion, tell him not to serve fried chicken at next year's champions dinner. Zoeller snapped his fingers, started walking away, then turned back, or collard greens, or whatever the hell they serve. Then he probably wished with all his might that he could turn back time and kick himself before saying it. Kmart and Dunlop terminated their sponsorship deals immediately. Zoeller withdrew from the next tournament, saying he couldn't play until he apologized to Tiger personally. He eventually accepted the apology, but the stain never washed off. One joke exposed exactly how some in golf's old guard really felt about change, and it cost Zoeller everything his reputation was built on. Next up, let's talk about a guy who made enemies faster than most players make birdies. On the final round at the 2005 Booz Allen Classic, Rory Sabatini gets paired with Ben Crane, known across the tour as one of the slowest players alive. On the 17th hole, Sabatini hit his approach into the water behind the green. Frustrated doesn't begin to cover it. He walked all the way past the green to take his drop before Crane had even hit his second shot. Then, the moment Crane's ball hit the ground, Sabatini chipped on, putted out, and marched straight to the 18th tee, leaving Crane standing alone in the fairway like a jilted date. The gallery booed him. Fellow pros said he came off looking like an idiot, but that was just warm-up. 2 years later at the 2007 Wachovia Championship, Sabatini had a one-shot lead over Tiger Woods going into Sunday. He shot 74 to Tiger's 69. Then, incredibly, he told reporters Tiger was more beatable than ever, that the win came from lucky breaks, not skill. Tiger's response was cold. 3 wins this year, same as Sabatini's entire career. 3 months later at Bridgestone, they were paired again in the final round. Sabatini led by 1. Tiger shot 65. Sabatini shot 74 again. 8-shot beatdown. Lesson delivered, keep your mouth shut. Now let's go to September 2014. At Gleneagles, Scotland, the US Ryder Cup team has just lost 16.5 to 11.5 to Europe, their 8th defeat in 10 matches. All 12 players sit at the dais for the post-match press conference, with Captain Tom Watson positioned just a dozen feet from Phil Mickelson. 8 questions in, barely 9 minutes into the presser, a reporter brings up Valhalla, asking what worked back in 2008 and why it hasn't worked since. Mickelson takes a long pause before breaking it down. Azinger had everyone bought into the process, from pairings to picks to pods, and the team had a real game plan. Then he points out that the US has drifted from that winning formula in the last 3 Ryder Cups. He never says Watson's name, but he doesn't have to. Then comes the dagger. Nobody here was in any decision. The room goes silent. Hunter Mahan, sitting next to Mickelson, looks uncomfortable. Watson holds a tight smile with hard eyes. When asked to respond, Watson says, I had a different philosophy as far as being a captain of this team. You know, it takes 12 players to win. It's not pods, it's 12 players. But with Watson sitting right there, Phil had just publicly torched his captain on live television. The 2014 Women's British Open, where Michelle Wie and Stacey Lewis Two of the biggest names in women's golf were taking very different paths to greatness. Michelle Wie, fresh off a major win that year, was known for her towering drives and bold, creative style. But what really caught everyone's eye was her putting stance, the now famous tabletop. Imagine this. Michelle would bend almost horizontally over the ball, eyes locked in with laser focus, and sink putts in a way that looked completely unorthodox, but absolutely worked for her. And then there was Stacy Lewis, the world number one, a perfectionist, a traditionalist, and definitely not impressed. During the Open, Stacy openly criticized Michelle's style, calling it unnecessary and even disrespectful to other players. For a top player like Stacy to publicly call out another golfer's technique was a bold move, and not everyone liked it. She didn't outright accuse Michelle of breaking any rules, but her message was crystal clear. In her eyes, Michelle's game wasn't real golf. Phil Mickelson was the defending Masters champion, and he'd recently switched from 6mm to 8mm metal spikes just weeks before the tournament. Seems harmless enough, right? Wrong. Vijay Singh, playing in the group behind Phil, was furious. He kept seeing these huge marks and holes being left all over Augusta's pristine greens. Singh, who was world number one at the time, wasn't having it. On the 13th hole, Singh called over officials twice to complain about Mickelson's spikes. But that wasn't even the crazy part. After his round, Phil walked into Augusta's champions locker room and heard Singh talking to other champions about the whole spike situation. That's when Phil completely lost it. Multiple people say Mickelson called Singh a mother and then asked him if he wanted to settle the issue outside. No one turned it into a boxing match, but what a moment. Two golf legends nearly ready to throw hands in the most prestigious locker room in golf over footwear. Back in 2000, Stephen Ames had some serious issues with a 24-year-old Tiger who was basically destroying everyone, saying that he doesn't have respect for other players and that he's just a spoiled guy. And Tiger's response at the time? Who's Stephen Ames? Cold. Fast forward to 2006. Ames gets drawn against Tiger in the first round of the WGC match play, and someone asks him about his chances. Anything can happen, he says. Tiger opened with 6 straight birdies and won every single hole on the front 9. He crushed Ames 9 and 8, setting the record for largest victory margin in match play history. The match was over after just 10 holes. Tiger hit all 10 greens in regulation and needed only 14 putts. When asked afterward if Ames's comments motivated him, Tiger just smirked and said, 9 and 8. Then he added, I think he understands now. The lesson? Never trash talk Tiger Woods. Ever.